I call to order this meeting of the Gary Sanitary District, the regular meeting of these Board of Commissioners for Monday, February 3rd, 2020. Before starting the meeting, I would ask that if anyone has a cellular phone or a pager, that you silence it or turn it to vibrate as to not disrupt the meeting. And if you do receive a call or a page during the meeting, we ask that you step into the hall, again, not to interrupt the meeting. Going through our agenda, we will begin this meeting as we do every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you stand with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Tramell Rags.
Present.
Commissioner Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Commissioner Ola Morris.
Present.
Commissioner Charles Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner Angela Jones.
Present.
Attorney Jewel Harris Jr.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 5 commissioners here, we have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Tramell Rags, certify that prior to this public meeting, an executive session was held, and that there was nothing that was discussed during that executive session except what was indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, there were no final decisions made during that executive session in compliance with the same statute. If there is any commissioner that dissents to this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, moving along the agenda, we have a bid opening. And for the bid opening, I will turn it over to the attorney, Jewel Harris Jr.
Do you want to call for any other bids?
Oh, that's right. Are there any final bids to be submitted for GSD project SD 1903, the boiler replacement? Are there any final bids still to be submitted? Last call for final bids. The bidding is now closed.
Now it's my turn. All right, the first bid is received by Mechanical Concepts out of Gary, Indiana. Do we know if there's any alternates for me to look for here?
Should just be a single bid,
Just the base bid?
base bid.
Okay. The base bid for Mechanical Concepts, Inc. is $525,000 even. Again, that's $525,000 even. What's this other tab? Next bid submitted by Thieneman Construction out of Westfield. Thieneman's bid is in the amount of $642,000 even. Again, that's $642,000. Final bid is received from DCR Services and Construction. Bid submitted by DCR Services and Construction, which is out of Detroit, Michigan, is for $556,000. Again, DCR, $556,000 even. Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that these bids be submitted to staff for further review and recommendation.
All right, so thus shall be done. Next on our agenda, we move to the minutes. What's the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the executive session and regular meeting minutes of January the 22nd, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones,
Abstain.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach,
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes with 1 abstaining vote.
All right, with 4 ayes and 1 abstention, the minutes have been approved. And just for notation, Commissioner abstained because she was not present at that last meeting. Moving along the agenda, we come to new business. And for new business, I will turn it over to the Executive Director, Mr. Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask for Vern White to present to you items 2A through 2F.
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSD payroll earnings for period ending December 23rd, 2019 through January 5th, 2020, in the amount of $246,141.90. I recommend approval and approval of item 2A.
You've heard the overview regarding 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B, a motion to approve GSD resolution number SD 20-02, approving and ratifying repayment of an interfund loan from the City of Gary's General Fund to the GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435. The motion is to approve and ratify a repayment of the existing City of Gary's outstanding loan to the Gary Sanitary District. Original loan of $15,597,426.61 was made to the City of Gary during the period 2005 through 2006. The current outstanding balance is now $4,257,126.61. The City of Gary entered into a repayment schedule per GSD's consent decree beginning September 19, 2018, as presented in your board packages. The City of Gary's most recent payment was made on January 24, 2020, in the amount of $500,000, again leaving a remaining outstanding balance of $4,257,126.61. The city is making the payments in accordance with the established repayment plan per the consent decree. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair. Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Just one question to Vern. These payments are made twice a year from the city?
It's in accordance with your schedule that's in the board package. It's once a year.
Once a year?
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach,
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C, a motion to approve GSD resolution number SD 20-03, approving the repayment of an interfund loan due to GSD's Equipment Replacement Fund 435 from GSD Center Operating Fund 670. Due to the influx of unanticipated projects and expenses during 2019, an interfund loan was required to supplement GSD Fund 670. There was an interfund loan made from GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 during September to GSD General Operating Fund 670, totaling $800,000. During the December 18 board meeting, resolution number SD 1920 was approved requesting repayment of the loan to GSD Equipment Replacement Fund. We requested to reestablish $400,000 of the loan through June 30 of 2020 in order to cover GSD's operating expenses. We're at a point now that we can go ahead and ask for repayment on that loan, so therefore the loan we established last month can be paid back to GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 in the amount of $400,000. I request approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
And Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
2D, a motion to approve GSD Resolution Number SD20-04, authorizing transferring funds from GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 for GSD Series 2020 Revenue Refunding Bond Closing Costs. GSD entered into a bond refinance agreement for its 2020 GSD bond series with bond closing costs totaling $5.1 million. Therefore, funds were required from various GSD funds for the bond closing costs. Funds were required from GSD Equipment Replacement Fund 435 on an emergency basis regarding the bond closing costs. The bond closing costs totaled for this particular fund $3,856,400.92, thus establishing a temporary interfund loan. A portion of the funds totaling $3,133,889.40 will be paid back to GSD Fund 435 from GSD Debt Service Reserve Fund 373 within the next 30 days. The remaining balance of $722,510.62 will be paid through a series of adjusted monthly transfers from GSD General Operating Fund 670. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval as stated in the motion.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
Item 2E, a motion to approve GSD Resolution Number SD20-05, authorizing closing out and transferring GSD Trust Indiana Debt Service Reserve Fund 373 to GSD Fifth Third Bank Debt Service Reserve Fund 373. As stated previously, funds were required for the GSD 2020 bond series closing costs. Therefore, funds were transferred from GSD Trust Indiana Fund 373 in the amount of $1,749,633.35 and transferred to GSD Fifth Third Fund 373. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2E. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2E has been approved.
2F, a motion to approve GSD Resolution Number SD20-06, authorizing transferring funds from GSD Bond and Interest Fund 372 for bond closing costs. Again, as previously stated, funds were required for GSD 2020 bond series closing costs. Therefore, funds were also transferred from GSD Fund 372 Bond and Interest Fund in the amount of $1,317,581.23. That completes the transactions for the bond closing costs required. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval as stated in the motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
Item 2G is a motion to rescind an award of contract to Recycle One LLC for sand and clay mining site operation agreement. This is something the board had initially offered an award of contract back in 2018, and I'm asking the board today to consider the rescinding of that offer of a contract.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2G, what is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones? Yes. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Raggs?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2G has been approved.
Item 2H is a motion to rescind an award of contract to Richardson Disposal, Inc. for the residential bulk waste drop-off and alley waste removal contract. Similarly to item 2G, this was originally an award of contract. The offer was made, a contract was never executed, and I'm asking the board today to consider rescinding that offer of contract.
You've heard the overview regarding 2H. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question directed at Mr. Perry. Now, where will the residents go? Is there another?
There had always been two sites. The one is at, was 7015 West Fifth Avenue, which will be no longer. The other site on the east side of town was at 15th Avenue and Clay Street at the Republic Transfer Station. Republic has offered to extend the similar service on the east side to what we'll call the west end, which is actually in East Chicago, but it's at, I don't have the address handy, it's on Columbus Drive, but their East Chicago transfer station is open and is actively being used by the citizens.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones? Yes. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
And Commissioner Raggs?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2H has been approved.
2 ayes, a motion to approve an award of bid to Spirac for the sole source purchase of conveyors in a not-to-exceed amount of $183,617.00. This is in our sludge dewatering building where sludge is treated at our belt filter presses. It's dewatered. It enters into a trough. That trough system is from the company Spirac. It was purchased several years ago. The augers and liner system in that trough have been extended beyond their useful life. Our maintenance crews are finding that the frequency of repairs is exceeding the value. So we've reached out to Spirac for replacement of those parts. It would be considered under state statute a sole source purchase, given that only their part fits in their trough system. So we're asking the board today to fund this project through our equipment replacement 435 fund and mark it for approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2I. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
So the auger is what we're replacing, or is it the trough and the auger?
The trough is intact. There's a liner that goes in there, and the liner is round shaped because the augers are round. So that liner and the screw conveyors are what take the abuse.
So we're replacing the
line-
auger
the-
and the screw,
And the liner and
Liner.
the screw.
auger and the screw.
Screw/auger, same thing.
Because I remember when I first came on board here, some 20 years ago, that's when they first installed that particular,
It's close. This might be the second replacement, but our plant superintendent, Rhonda Anderson, indicated that this screw and liner is 13 years old,
13 years old.
and it runs nonstop, continuously.
24/7.
So anything that runs nonstop for 13 years is pretty remarkable. It's time for replacement.
So you're saying it's time for me to be replaced?
No. Touche, good one.
Touche. Well,
Don't put that in the minutes.
that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Choose your words carefully.
Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Raggs?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2I has been approved.
That's all for new business, but I would like to indicate, I do have the address for the West Citizen Drop location, and it's at 102 West Columbus Drive. at the
In
Republic
Gary?
Transfer Station.
East Chicago?
It's in East Chicago. And the other site is in Lake Station at 15th Avenue and Clay Street.
So when you drop off, you have to show your identification and
You do,
et
you have to
cetera?
show that you're a Gary resident. There are to be no commercial vehicles, no trailers, and you can come once per week
With
and
no
drop
fee.
off with no fee.
No fee.
And only the approvable, there's a list of
That
things,
drop-off consists of what?
what you can
Tree
drop off
limbs?
there. You can't, no, it's not yard waste, you can't drop yard waste there.
Tree branches?
You can't drop, that's yard waste, so no tree branches, no grass, no leaves, all yard waste
So you're
material.
saying you can drop off anything like what?
Garbage.
Garbage?
Yeah, if you clean out your garage and you have more than, Republic will pick up curbside one large item per week, but let's say you cleaned out your basement, and you have a couch, a mattress, a TV,
Now,
you know,
that's
all
being
sorts of
picked up by
things.
who?
You can take them yourself to the citizen drop at no charge. But for the other things you mentioned, the yard waste, we have curbside brown bag pickup. So anything that you have that can fit into the brown bag, that gets picked up by our City of Gary General Services Department.
Moving along our agenda, we come to claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSD claims numbers 309 through 503 in the amount of $1,141,482.98. I recommend approval and ratification of today's GSD claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move approval. Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 3A has been approved.
That completes today's GSD claims items.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates, and our first information update will be from our plant superintendent, Ms. Rhonda Anderson.
Good morning. The combined sewer overflow operational plan annual update was submitted to US EPA, item and DOJ on Friday, meeting the due date. Some of the updates that were included were 2019 flows demonstrating that we are maximizing plant flow capacity. We included linear feet of the sewers that were cleaned and televised, the miles of Gary streets that were swept, long-term control plan progress, and some other items. And I'd like to thank our Executive Director, Daniel Wakari, Eric Todd, Mandera Weigel, and Lamingo Tomlin for their help in compiling this report and getting it out on time. Update on our lighting project. In December, we had the inspection for all the lighting fixtures that we fixed. It was approved by the inspector in December. NIPSCO approved it on January 21st, and so we're expecting our incentive check to be delivered any day now. On the aeration improvement project, the demolition of blowers 4 and 5 has started. They've completely removed both of the blowers. They're in the process of removing the motors, and then they will remove the bases. The demolition of those things will take a few weeks, and then they will continue with that project. So we received the boiler replacement project bids today. Leading up to the bid submission, there were 3 addendums and multiple questions and inquiries that were addressed. On the grid system improvement project, we had a 90% design review on Thursday, January 30th, and we had a lot of good discussion, and we plan to continue that discussion tomorrow. And then, help me out, Mandera, the 100% design is due March 7th. Okay. We had filter number 5 repairs. A new pressate flow meter has been installed. Water heater in the dewatering building has been repaired, and a heating unit in the chemical building was repaired. 2019 OSHA Form 300A, which lists all of the OSHA recordable injuries that we have, has been posted. It is required to be posted from February 1st through April the 30th, and we have complied with that. And finally, we're still looking to fill operator vacancies, and certified wastewater operators or degree candidates are preferred. That's all I have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for the plant superintendent? Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Our next information update will be from Eric Tonk in reference to construction activities.
Good morning, Board. I'm here to provide a quick update on current construction projects. The first one being the Clark Road improvements. I believe at the last board meeting, the certificate of substantial completion was approved. All that remains is one small sidewalk section needs to be poured with concrete. They can't do that until NIPSCO lowers a gas valve. And Gary Material Supplies has been in contact with NIPSCO to get that work done. The next project is the Lake Street Road construction project. That project is currently on hold due to the weather. Once spring rolls around, I'm sure we'll be having progress meetings and updates on when this project will be started again for the construction season. The next project was the aeration system improvements project. Tiedemann has mobilized on site. They begin demolition of the blowers number 4 and 5. That work will take a while. We're still in some submittal review process with this project. And right now we're discussing the temporary blower and piping system for this project. The last project on my list is the Atchison Street drainage improvements. This is on Hobart Road and near US 12. Metz has procured the equipment for this. It is on site, and they should be mobilizing to the site soon and starting construction. And that's all I have. Take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Tonk?
What type of temporarily blowing blowers that you plan on using over there doing demolition?
I'm not too sure what type, but they're going to be sized adequately. They'll be staged on by the southern area of Southern Aeration Gallery. So they will have to install piping for that. But yeah, the blowers will be down in the North Floor building for a while. Part of the project.
Any other questions for Mr. Tonk? Thank you, Mr. Tonk.
Thank you.
Moving along our agenda, next we come to discussion. That is discussion amongst members of the board. Is there any topic a board member wishes to discuss at this time?
Mr. Chair, earlier we voted on the minutes, and I was absent that particular day, and I voted yes. And I would like to change that to no. Abstain. I'm sorry. Abstention.
Recall that agenda item.
Okay.
Is that a-
So what we will do is
Someone will make a motion to recall.
I'll need a motion to recall agenda item 1, which is the minutes, and we can recall the agenda item and revote.
Sorry about
Someone
that.
needs to make the motion.
I'm sorry.
Someone needs to make that motion to recall agenda item.
I'll make a motion to recall.
Second.
All right. It has been moved and properly seconded. Now we have to vote on if we're going to recall it, right?
Correct. I don't think you heard Commissioner Jackson's explanation. He inadvertently voted yes in approving the minutes, but he also was absent, just like
Oh,
Commissioner
okay.
Jones. So that's the only reason to recall it.
He should abstain.
So it's been moved and properly seconded.
Your vote
Now,
now
our
is
vote
to,
now is to recall this item, not the voting on the item.
then you need to reapprove it.
But roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach?
Yes.
Commissioner Ragg?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, we will recall agenda item 1. Agenda item 1 is on the floor. What is the pleasure of the board regarding agenda item number 1?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the agenda item 1 again for approval for the executive session and regular meeting, January 22nd, 2020.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jones?
Abstain.
Commissioner Jackson?
Abstain.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach?
Yes.
Commissioner Rags?
Yes.
The vote now is 2 abstaining votes, 3 ayes.
With 3 ayes and 2 abstentions, the minutes have been approved. Turning back to agenda item 5, is there any other item that a commissioner wishes to discuss at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
No requests to speak. Next on the agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We are adjourned. I call to order this meeting of the Gary Stormwater Management District, this regular meeting of its Board of Directors for Monday, February 3rd, 2020. First thing on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Director Tramiel Rags?
Present.
Director Maurice Maybach?
Present.
Director Ola Morris?
Present.
Director Charles Jackson?
Present.
Director Angela Jones?
Present.
Attorney Jewel Harris Jr.?
Present?
Executive Director Daniel Vicari?
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White?
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 5 directors here, we have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Tramiel Rags, certify that prior to this public meeting, an executive session was held. And there was nothing discussed during that executive session except what was indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, no final decisions were made during that executive session in compliance with that same statute. If there is any director that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, moving along the agenda, next we come to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the executive session and regular meeting minutes of January the 22nd, 2020.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jones?
Abstain.
Director Jackson?
Abstain.
Director Morris?
Yes.
Director Maybach?
Yes.
Director Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 3 ayes with 2 abstaining votes.
With 3 ayes and 2 abstentions, the minutes have been approved. Next, we move along to new business, and for new business, I will turn it over to the executive director, Mr. Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. There is only one item of new business, and it's payroll, and if Vern White can present that to you, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSWMD's payroll earnings for the period ending December 23rd, 2019 through January 5th, 2020, in the amount of $9,301.98. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jones?
Yes.
Director Jackson?
Yes.
Director Morris?
Yes.
Director Maybach?
Yes.
Director Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
That completes the items for today's stormwater new business.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to claims, and for claims, I will turn it back over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSWMD claims numbers 29 through 43, in the amount of $236,299.02. I recommend approval and ratification of today's stormwater claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval and ratification, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jones?
Yes.
Director Jackson?
Yes.
Director Morris?
Yes.
Director Maybach?
Yes.
Director Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 3A has been approved and ratified.
That completes today's stormwater claim items.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to information updates. And our first information update will come from our MS4 coordinator, Ms. Brenda Scott Henry.
Hello, good afternoon. I just have a couple of things I want to say. One, our MS4 team coordination meeting is scheduled for February 10th at 1:30 p.m. Sorry, at 839 Broadway. We have an exciting event coming up. We've been doing a lot of planning for our Climate Justice and Resilient Planning Summit. This is kind of some of the information that we will use to kick off a sustainability plan for the city of Gary. But this event is held on February the 8th at 10 o'clock a.m. at Trinity United Church, located at 1276 West 20th Avenue. And this is an effort that we are doing in partnership with the Gary NAACP. So it's kind of like our Black History Month event as well. So we are we're working directly with Lori Latham, who is over the environmental committee for the NAACP in Gary chapter. So again, we have a host of activities that would include getting information from the public, updating the public on some climate issues that we are being faced with, everything from water quality, air quality, land quality issues that we're faced with. One of the most significant things is flooding. So we know that there are definitely areas of the city that we are impacted by flooding due to the frequency, the increased number of wet weather events that we're having. And I think we can all agree that this is probably one of the most warmest weather seasons that we've had, winters that we've had in a while. So this is an opportunity for us to get input from the public on your thoughts around climate justice and resilient planning. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to
Just one
answer.
question. Could you please repeat the date and place for the affair you're talking about?
So again, the date is Saturday, February 8th at 10 a.m. And this is at Trinity United Church, located at 1276 West 20th Avenue, right
Thank
off
you.
Grant Street on 20th Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, our next information update will be from American Structure Point, and it's going to come from Mr. John Tucker.
Good afternoon, Board. Just a couple quick construction updates. As we get into the spring, we have been in conversations with the Lake Street project and the contractor, trying to work on the schedule. We are anticipating potential to resume that project at the early part of March. As we fine-tune those details, we'll present to the Board to keep everyone updated and, of course, keep the residents and businesses with advance notice of any future work happening. We also had for the next Army Corps project for Horseman, the first progress meeting today. That work is also about a month away, but submittals and communication has been happening for that. There's some point repairs they'll start with first before they get into the lining on that project, but just kind of wanted to bring everyone back up to date with construction. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Tucker?
No.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you.
Our final information update will come from Robinson Engineering, and that will come from Mr. Ron Smith.
Good afternoon, Directors. Ron Smith with Robinson Engineering. Just a couple updates for you. The Warren Street feasibility study, 2 options were provided to Executive Director Dan Vicari and staff, so we're just waiting to hear back from staff to see what the next course of action is as far as the design for the project. We're still currently working on the design of the 6th Place project that is from Lake Street to Miller Avenue. And that's all I have this afternoon. And I'll entertain any questions that the directors may have at this time.
Any questions for Robinson Engineering.
We'll get them in the spring.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
The Army Corps of Engineers, do you have any questions?
Those
Anything
guys. All
about
right,
them?
thank you.
Morning, Directors. Chris Murphy from Structure Point. Sorry I missed my turn. We have started our work on Task Order 30, which is a Section 219 funded project through the Army Corps of Engineers for the replacement of the sanitary sewer main on 13th Avenue from Roosevelt to Johnson. That project was surveyed last week to give us all the information with regard to the existing conditions out there at the site. And with that survey information, we'll start the engineering work immediately so that we can complete the plans and specifications in time for the Corps' schedule of bidding the project, which is end of June, early July of 2020. So that those Section 219 funds can be encumbered in a construction contract before the end of the federal fiscal year, which is September 30th. Anything else I can update the directors on for the
What about the Lake Street extension?
Lake Street extension?
The Army Corps of Engineers involvement.
Yeah, the Corps of Engineers project on Lake Street is complete. The Corps of Engineers 219 project involved the replacement of the combined sewer system on Lake Street in downtown Miller from approximately 7th Avenue to 3rd Avenue. The Phase 2 Lake Street construction does not currently involve a Section 219 grant from the Corps of Engineers. It is intended to be funded with an amendment to our RDA grant that we have for the current Lake Street project.
What about the bridge?
The bridge over Lake Street, over the lagoon, that will be a Lake County highway engineering project. It is scheduled to be constructed concurrently with the Lake Street Phase 2 improvements from approximately 3rd Avenue to Lake Street Beach. The actual phasing of that contract, we haven't quite figured out yet, so that, the county bridge contractor will not be in the way of the Stormwater District's Lake Street reconstruction road contractor. We still need to work out those details for that phasing, but Lake County Highway has agreed to fund the improvements to that bridge. We're working with the engineer right now to define a typical section across that bridge that we can fit on there that will include 2 lanes of traffic, a narrow cycle track, and a sidewalk across that bridge without having to widen it, so we can maintain as much of the architectural features on that existing bridge as we can. We already know we'll have to spend some time detailing the existing railing system so that we can improve that railing system for cycle and pedestrian traffic to some current standards for safety for bridges that handle cycle and pedestrian traffic while still maintaining that architectural integrity that the current railing has on that bridge.
Okay, one other, 15th Avenue, West 15th Avenue, from Klein Avenue.
To Colfax.
Yes.
Correct. We are still engineering that project. We want to have a position available on that project of construction plans and bidding documents for Phase 1, which we're identifying as Klein Avenue to the railroad tracks, as that section is in the most need. By this fall, when NERC advertises for additional funding for construction of road reconstruction projects. We want to be able to identify in our application for that funding that this project is shovel-ready, ready to go, so that we can seek an award of federal funds for that road construction of that project.
You don't have anything on the east side of town, 15th Avenue, do you?
No, we do.
You do?
We have, well, I've got an update, so I'm glad you asked. The 15th Avenue East project has approximately $3 million in federal funds for road reconstruction and stormwater improvement for construction. Those dollars are available in fiscal year 2022. I'll have to check that, 2022, 2023. We recently were able to secure additional federal funds for engineering services for the 15th Avenue West or East project, gateway from Martin Luther King to I-65. Currently, we're working with Public Works to secure an engineering agreement so we can utilize those federal funds, which will pay 80% of the engineering cost, and have that engineering ready for plan preparation and bid specification development sometime around April, which is when those dollars will be available for engineering. So we're going through that process right now, both on the 15th Avenue East project and also on additional improvements to safe walking environment improvements on US Highway 20 from Lake Street to approximately Fayette Street, which is about halfway between Lake Street and Clay Street. There's some federal funding assigned to that project, as well as an NDOT grant that was secured through the city and the Stormwater Management District. That totals approximately 2.7 million in funds available for those safe walking environment improvements on US 20. And NERC additionally recently provided for additional engineering funds for that project also. So we're working right now, again, with Public Works to secure an agreement so that we can utilize those engineering dollars so we can develop those construction plans and specifications for letting of that improvement. And that will follow on from the US 1220 connector road that NDOT is going to build to allow for the construction of the double track project that NICTE's pursuing out there in Miller. I know that was a long answer to a short question, but
Thanks,
that's where
I
all that's
appreciate the overview.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? Thank you.
Thank you, directors.
Next on our agenda is discussion. That's discussion amongst members of the board. Is there any topic a board member wishes to discuss at this time? Hearing none, next we'll move along to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
With no request to speak, next on our agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
We are adjourned.